Back in 2009, I wrote an article talking about something called sandwich lease options, and it wasn't really picked up on at the time by the press. It made a few of the smaller newspapers, but I was really interested to hear that on BBC Radio 5 Live yesterday, which was a Sunday evening, they ran a programme at 9 o'clock talking about lease options. Now, if you've not come across them, basically this has been billed as the new way of getting into property investment without using any of your own money. And when I first heard about this a couple of years ago, it pretty much turned my stomach, to be honest, because people who haven't got money simply shouldn't be in property. And the way that the scheme works is that these so-called property investors will look at properties where people are desperate to move. It might be because they need to relocate for family reasons, personal reasons. It might be a job relocation. They may be looking to get somewhere bigger or smaller, but they've had difficulties in selling their own property. So property investor comes along and says, well, I can solve all your problems. I'd like to take an option to buy your property for its full market value, and basically what will happen is that sometime in the next 5 years I'll give you the full market value of the property, and you have to give me an option to be able to buy it at its value today, but at any time in the next 5 years. And in the meantime, I'll rent the property out for you and I'll pay your mortgage for you. Now, to some people that might sound like a great deal, but the problem is, and my worry is, that when interest rates start to go up, or if that property investor falls into financial difficulty, what happens when the mortgages don't get paid? If he can't find a tenant, for example, or a tenant trashes the property, what happens to that mortgage? Well, of course, it's still in the name of the person who originally took the mortgage out. So landlord or property investor might be saying, I'll pay you your mortgage, which is £200 a month. He might be renting it out for £500 or £600, and he has an option to purchase the property in the next 5 years, but there's no guarantee he's going to purchase it. And of course, if interest rates go up, and let's say the interest rate's £100 a month more than he's getting in rent, or if there's a problem with the property and he starts to default on those mortgage payments, then what happens? Well, of course, the bank's going to want to repossess. His exit route is going to be to try and sell the property, but if the property has decreased in value, that might be very, very difficult for him to do, especially if he's got into property with no money. And there's been a whole industry created out of this. People, gurus we'll call them, selling what I would call get-rich-quick schemes, where they charge people £1,000 or a couple of thousand, sometimes as much as £50,000 to go on these courses to learn how to do these sandwich lease options. And it really does worry me, because people are putting this stuff on their credit cards, they're putting a little bit of marketing on their credit cards, and really they're people of straw that are getting people to do these deals. When they rent the properties out to the tenants, they work on the basis that if you pay me an extra £200 a month, then I'll give you the ability to buy this property off of me within the next 5 years for it at an agreed price. And that price will be a greater price than the investor has agreed to buy the property from the other person. So the investor stands to make two ways. He stands to make on the increase between the price he exercises his option, in other words the buying price, and the selling price, and he also makes the money on the excess cash flow. But of course, this poor tenant might be paying an extra couple of £100 a month, thinking to himself, oh, this is great because that's £200 a month that's being credited towards my deposit when I come to buy this property. But the reality is, if the example that I gave earlier, where interest rates go up and property investor can't afford to service that mortgage, property gets repossessed. So it's not only the person who wanted to sell the property that ends up losing out and losing money, but it's also that tenant who's been paying that couple of £100 a month extra for his rent. So I think it was really, really good that the BBC have raised this in yesterday's 5 Live programme, and hopefully that's the tip of the iceberg, and that more people will come forward that have been ripped off in this way. The gurus would have us believe that there are thousands of these deals being done every single week, and I hope that's just marketing blurb, because if it isn't, then these things are going to come home to roost when interest rates do eventually go up. Of course, we don't know when that is, but you know, the likelihood is that we will see 5% bank base rates again within the next 5 or 10 years at the long stretch. So you know, this could be a problem. It could be a huge problem, and there are one or two of these property investors and these gurus that are starting to hit the wall already whilst interest rates are at 0.5%. So when they start to creep up to 1, 2, 3%, I think it's going to be a much bigger problem. So anyway, I'd very much like to hear your thoughts on this subject. There is a comment section below this, so please do leave a comment. You know, do you think these lease options are a good idea? Have you come across schemes that you think work really well? Are you very much anti-lease options? Do you think they should be regulated? What do you think the industry should do about this huge potential problem as I see it? Anyhow, thank you for joining me with this video, and my message, as always, to landlords, at least the good ones that is, live long and prosper.